Okay, we'll see how it's going today. I don't care. It's definitely interesting times. Some showers tomorrow, I guess. Alrighty. So hopefully it's working. Hopefully we're getting audio here today. Theoretically, everything's set up the way it's supposed to be. I don't know why it's so hot here today, but... So, I guess the last video we tried to put up, it still didn't work. I gotta figure that out. I'm gonna try with my laptop again after this. I look like I got a black eye. I'm gonna try with my laptop after this an experiment. I'll probably keep it set to private, but if it shows up, don't worry about it. I just need to figure out why every time I try to do a video with a laptop, it doesn't want to work. But it is what it is. I got bigger problems going on in my world right now. So I got to get the car straightened out and squared away by the end of the month. And then from there, I also need to do some stuff for jobs. I need to find some jobs in the area that'll do me better for a little while. And then securing that income, look into some opportunities for other things that I need to take care of. Feels like an entire life reboot going on this year. Not my favorite experience, but in the meantime, I need to get back into the pattern of living light. Figuring out what I need to do and where I need to go and what I need to work on. Those are my priorities right now. Man, it's just been a rough year. Anyway, the game designs that I was talking about last time. I was trying to keep myself in a positive frame of mind. I don't care. Stop giving me spam. The game idea that I've been working on for this month was based roughly off of the Vampire Hunter game. And that game, theoretically, gives us a fairly decent foundation for gameplay. I feel like I want to trade out the dice rolling option for card movement mechanisms. And I'm thinking like the same kind of design that I was using for my Access Granted cyberpunk game that we came up with a couple years ago. Was it a couple years ago or was it last year? I guess it was a couple years ago. I guess a lot of crap has hit me in the meantime. The Access Granted game that I came up with a couple years ago used a mechanism modified from the old TSR Fantasy Forest game. And I feel like using that movement mechanism also gives you the chance to do not just the movements, but the attack when you encounter a monster. And so rather than rolling dice to get the results you need for both movement and attack. You draw cards and you keep a hand, and your hand is both your movement and your attack. So heavy attacks will compromise your ability to move, and heavy movement will compromise your ability to attack. And some of those mechanisms, I think, are working well enough in some of the game designs that I played with that they're worth experimenting with for the idea that I want to do for this game that I'm working on now. Let me check something. Okay, we're gonna fight me on this, aren't we? All right, yep. Everybody wants to pick a fight tonight. All right, let's do this. So what I'm thinking of doing, I think the last time we got a post on here where it had actual audio, yeah, it says I'm live now, so come on, work for me just a little bit, dude. Doesn't have to be a constant fight. So last time we were talking about it when we had functional audio, I was discussing the possibility of figuring out what game design theme I was going to use. So the game design genre is what I titled the one. Found my game genre. And so what I was talking about at that point, which I still don't know why the audio doesn't work, was taking the God damn, I am just so tired. Taking the Vampire Hunter genre, or Vampire Hunter game as the foundation. And when taking that game, it starts you off with and establishes from the get-go certain aspects of the game. So you start with 4 vampire hunters. And your goal is to get to the villain, the vampire, defeat him before the ship that is his escape can get there. So those provide some elemental insights into the basic structure of what I'm thinking of doing here. So 4 heroic action characters versus a villain, and during the course of play, you'll pass through, I think it's 3 or 4 regions, and each of those regions is populated by entities that you may encounter, and they may provide you with resources, or they may turn out to be monsters that you have to fight. So just taking that basic foundation as a means of establishing some of the basic pieces of this game build, we can take a look at the idea of heroic characters versus a villainous character, The villainous character has the option of winning against the heroic characters by simply them not getting there before he can escape. In between them are encounters that can be both things that the heroes achieve and gain that enable them to go to the next levels of the conflict. And they can also be things on the side of the villain. If I'm going to yawn all night, I'm probably going to make this a short one. So the idea seems to be, in my mind, one that can be easily reskinned in multiple ways going forward. And one of the things that I see as a possibility going forward is doing superhero themed versions of these things. So instead of a vampire hunter, you have a superhero. Instead of a vampire, you have a supervillain. Now, one of the things I talked about that's, I guess, missing from the other videos, maybe it'll be missing from this one, I don't know, is the idea that you could potentially choose to play either side of that conflict. Now, it might be a little hard to make that work from the get-go, so it may be something I include in a later version. But the idea that you could play either the hero or the villain in a single-player game, or in a two-player game, you could play the villain and your friend could play the hero, and it's you against them. Or you could play two people against I don't want to call it an AI villain, but against the game, I guess is the way to put it. So you have the option of that kind of thing being an opportunity. I think one of the other things I talked about doing with this same kind of game is half the fun sometimes of superheroes is in the superhero origin story. So if you start off with a character, I'm sorry, my mood is not really set up for this tonight. It's hard for me to focus. You know what? I think I'm going to call it here for tonight. I'm going to stop at 15 minutes. Sorry. I will give you the basic summary of what happened the last time. I will see what I can do about figuring out why it didn't work the last time so that we don't have that problem again. I will be back on Tuesday, but basic summary was taking the Vampire Hunter game, switching it up to a superhero theme, changing the mechanism from dice to cards potentially as the mechanism for movement and attack, swapping out some of the graveyard zombie character token markers for I think it's zombies, bats, and spiders, or werewolves and villagers, or something like that, as the encounters that you can have along the way. Swap some of those out for instead doing hostages and minions of the supervillain. Supervillain's escape mechanism or doomsday weapon or other things is sort of that ticker time bomb situation that you have to get to before it's too late. And that's the mechanism in the Vampire Hunter game that we use for the possibility of the vampire winning and the heroes not winning, which is what a mechanism I think is, if it's not intended to or possible to use it as a single player, it's a mechanism that enables that to become a possibility if you know what you're doing with it. So, single player option superhero game with a villain, a hero, and I think the other thing I talked about last time is the superhero origin stories. So making the map that you play on reversible and putting in a second scenario for the hero in that particular pack, and doing multi-packs so that you can have multiple versions of this game done slightly differently for each. But for now, like I said, I've got some things I need to think about and work on right now, and I just can't seem to get my head in the game here tonight. So I'm going to call it here. We're 16 and a half minutes in. Hopefully that's not too disappointing, but I will catch you later. Take care, and good night. I should probably be in a better mood by Tuesday, I imagine. A little less on my plate by then.